us go live. So we should be getting live. It's just loading. Oh, it's still a little chilly in here.
Stop. It's nice and cozy.
I think. Ta-da! We're live.
What? We're live?
We are live.
Where are we? I've forgotten.
I don't know. It's so darn cold in here. I can't think.
It's like 50 degrees in here. We're in Maine, everyone. But we have a show for you today.
Yes, we do.
Woohoo! Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's the Sunday Songwriter Spotlight.
With the Snarky Sisters.
We're live at noon.
I forgot my part.
Yeah. Right here on our Facebook page. With our friends, we will commune.
Because we're communists.
Featuring Parthenon Huxley and some of his fabulous, exciting, amazing, magnificent, and stupendous tunes. That's sort of like the person, woman, man, camera, TV thing.
Yeah.
Part 2.
We'll be in our pajamas. We don't mean to rattle on.
I wore some of my clothes last night.
We're drinking our libations. Oh, what do you got today?
I have a squid special.
Ooh. Well, I have a hot toddy. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers,
Parthenon.
Cheers.
And toasting a musical genius phenomenon. So here's to the talented P. Hux.
And yes, his name is Parthenon.
Woohoo! Up to there.
Well, cheers, Parthenon, and welcome.
Thank you.
We're so glad you're here with us today.
Got my soy latte, so I guess I'm the only sober one on the show.
Well, how do we know for sure?
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm going to ask you that trite question. Is it okay if I ask it?
I don't know. It's pretty trite.
Is it? Well, she told me not to ask it, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Sure.
Why is your name Parthenon Huxley?
The follies of youth. Not that 30 years old is youth, but I just decided it would be fun to have a different name. I lived in Greece when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the Parthenon nod. And then one of my favorite books was Aldous Huxley's Island, in which a journalist crash lands on a mysterious island, and there's a whole society there run by, it's actually kind of Hillary Clinton's vision. It's kind of a village where everybody takes care of everybody, and it's a radical sort of, way to run life.
So
it's a utopia. It's a utopian
That's right.
versus Brave New World, which is a dystopia.
Yes. So Island was the opposite of that, where everybody gets along and people are doing the right thing. And I reread it about 20 years later. It's a little stiff. Aldous Huxley's a little bit, into the ideas rather than the prose, but great writer, obviously. Interesting thing about him. Do you know the day he died?
No.
Aldous Huxley died the day Kennedy was shot.
Oh,
Wow.
Exactly, Daisy.
Yes. The editorializing. Hey,
you're somebody.
So you and Diana have something in common, right? The journalism backgrounds, right?
I do have a journalism degree, but let me just finish that thing about Aldous Huxley. The worst thing in the world to have an obituary. Right? I mean, he got, nobody realized.
No one realized that he was dead.
There's one other thing. Apparently on his deathbed, his last words were, "Oh, I thought so."
Wow.
I've heard that. But that would be a good thing. That would be a good epitaph. Oh, I thought so.
Or I'll be back.
Take it.
I'll be back. Wait for me.
How about get off my lawn?
So, is that enough about the name?
At least you didn't name yourself Aldous, I think.
No.
Where did you live in Greece, by the way?
In Athens. My dad, our family moved there in 1966, and it was fantastic, just from New Jersey to Greece. And on the way over there is when I started writing songs on the ship that we took over.
Oh, wow.
When I was 10 years old, writing about lost love, you know.
Aw. That's a sweet image.
But yeah, I was over there 8 years, and it was amazing. Completely changed my life.
So wait a minute, you were like 10 or something, right, when you went to Greece. So rock and roll, you heard American rock and roll through the ears of, you were in Greece. How
66 to 74, huge years. Yeah, huge years in rock and roll, and maybe heightened by the way that we got our music, which was mostly our older brothers coming home from college with albums in hand. And if we got the chance to go back to the States for a vacation, I'd have my 25 hot dollars, and I'd go to go to the record store and pick out the 4 or 5 albums I could afford for that year. So a lot of albums, like the first few albums by Doors, Cream, Jimi Hendrix, all those albums, Beatles, of course, were sort of our lifeboats over there, because there was no live music to speak of.
Really?
No radio, no TV.
Oh.
We were pretty cut off, except for our little group. And when new kids moved to town, we'd say, "What albums do you have? Do you play guitar? Do you sing? Blah blah blah." So that kind of thing. Like when
what was your when did you
when the Israeli-Egyptian war broke out, all these kids moved to Athens because it was safer, and it was like, "What albums do you have?" Go ahead. What was your question?
So when did you pick up your first guitar, and was it your first instrument?
After the Beatles were on Ed Sullivan back in New Jersey, we saw me and 50 million other kids saw them on Ed Sullivan. That was it. I had to, maybe I won't be a pitcher for the New York Yankees. Maybe I'll be this. And everybody got a guitar. I got one that following Christmas and didn't learn how to play it for about 3 or 4 years, but finally learned some chords.
Do you remember what it was?
The guitar, yeah, it was a Lori, Lori, nylon string. I'm sure my dad got it for about $25, something like that. I had it forever, and then when I moved to Greece, it was a small American community, and the people over there, so the older kids and the younger kids kind of were allowed to commingle, and there were some good bands over there, high school bands, and I learned a lot of chords from those guys and from other people
Wow.
I was in the band by the time I was 12, probably.
Wow. Well, Diana has a list of questions. It's about 3 pages long.
No.
Yes,
no,
you do.
no,
I'm going
no.
to show it to him. I'm going to show it. Yes, I'm going to show it to him. Look
No,
at
and
it.
it's going to be like Trump. Someone's going to take a picture of it and enlarge it. Some of them are very embarrassing.
Well,
It's your picks for the next Supreme Court justice. Who do you suggest? I'm just kidding you. Do you play any other instruments, though? Because I know you play some, like, $25 chords there. Do you play other instruments?
I'm pretty good on guitar. I'm a okay bass player and a terrible drummer. But I have drums. I have a bass, so I can dabble. But I know that I'm not kidding myself. But guitar.
Yeah.
It's been 50 years now at least, so I keep learning. What I love about guitar is it just never stops opening itself up to you, especially I've been teaching for 15 years, and I never wanted to do that before, but I'm glad I did, because I'm learning so much more stuff and have a guitar in my hand every day. So, yeah, guitar's it didn't save my life, but it sure helped.
Yeah. Well, you're so interesting, and we would love to say, we could sit here and talk for a whole hour, but I know that people want to hear you sing too.
Okay.
So, do you want to just throw something at us, or
Sure.
take a request, or what? How do you want to go?
Let's just do Buddha Buddha. It's kind of a good
Yeah.
table setter or whatever. Now, if you hear any echo, let me know, and we'll do the earplug thing and all that.
We're good.
All right, so wrote this when I was 26, which is like at least 10 years ago. Everything I do, Buddha did with love, and that's what I aspire to. Try to rise above the petty things I run into. I think of love when I do everything I do. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Fishing boats in the Greek blue sea go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Enemy planes in the comic books go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Young hearts when they fall in love go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. I live in a different world, a private solitude, where I always tell the truth, but I'm lying to you. Our worlds are the same. Hot dogs and jet planes, the yin and the yang, over and over again and again and again. Everything I do, Buddha did with love, and that's what I aspire to. Try to rise above the petty things I run into. I think of love when I do everything I do. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Fishing boats in the Greek blue sea go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Enemy planes in the comic books go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Young hearts when they fall in love go. Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. I live in a different world, a private solitude, where I always tell the truth, but I'm lying to you. Our worlds are the same. Soy dogs and jet planes, the yin and the yang, over and over again and again, over and over again and again, over and over again and again, over and over again and again.
There we go. Yeah.
That was great.
Thank you very much.
So you have a bunch of people watching. We have
Cool.
Rachel and Robbie and Jeff and Adele and Jim and Val and Diane and Robbie, Ed. Wow, bunch of folks watching right now.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's an awesome song. So do you mind giving us just a short little elevator thing about how you wrote that song and when you wrote it?
I was like 25, 26, and kind of on fire with songwriting, really feeling like I was starting to write my own stuff and not being too derivative of whoever was influencing me. And I was really ashamed of the lyrics because they were too personal. Like, everything I do, Buddha did with love, and that's what I aspire to. I thought that was far too revealing and made me nervous. And of course, nobody ever asked me a thing about those lyrics because everybody liked Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. I like that part, Buddha, Buddha, Buddha. Songwriters, we don't really know what we're doing, or how people are going to hear it. So, but I was really happy with that song. I thought it was saying I wanted to, if there's any kind of mission I'm on, it's the love thing, and just, that seems to be the bottom line of how to get along. So I've tried to write different kinds of love songs, and I thought that was a nice different one. Not really preachy, but sorta, but fun, kind of thing.
So you wrote that in when you were in North Carolina. Tell us about your time in North Carolina and Cat's Cradle and some of the people we have in common from there.
Yeah, really. I got lucky. When I left Greece, I landed in Chapel Hill. I hadn't been in the States in 8 years. Never been in this. Never been down there. Didn't know. But the vice principal at my high school in Greece said I would love it. He got his master's in Chapel Hill. Said it would be great. And it was 1974. So the 60s were still kind of hanging on a little bit. There were head shops and record stores and long hairs, and it was pretty cool. And Chapel Hill was kind of an island unto itself back then. It had its own power company, its own phone company. I mean, it was kind of cut off. And you know, famously Jesse Helms said, "We don't need to build a zoo in North Carolina; just put a fence around Chapel Hill."
Yeah.
So it was it's a great place, really nice place to go to school, and um, lots of great original music there. It was a town where you really had to have original stuff to play. It wasn't really a cover band town. A couple of great clubs, the Town Hall and Cat's Cradle, where all these bands that were going from Atlanta to DC would stop, and so we saw everybody, and it's just a great place. You know, a little island existence, and lots of great musicians. Don Dixon was a huge help. Recorded the first couple of things I recorded. He produced the first couple of things I recorded. My friend Matt Barrett from Greece ended up moving there. He all of us who lived in Greece came back to the States and were kind of like, what are we doing? You know, like, because Greece was so amazing. Matt was in Long Island, and he said, you know, I'm not really happy up here, but he said, I saw that Led Zeppelin was playing in Greensboro. Can you get me a ticket? I'll come down. And so we did, and he stayed for the rest of his life. He's still down.
Hey, so were you telling us that you met some of the DC bands when you were in North Carolina?
Well, one of my jobs was I never really enjoyed real jobs, but I did like music-related jobs. So one was I was a rock reviewer for Spectator magazine, which was kind of the city paper of its time, you know, the weekly arts paper. And Root Boy Slim would play the Cat's Cradle, and I interviewed him,
We
and
love Root Boy.
Root Boy's amazing, you know.
Boogie till you puke, man.
Punch a
You
hole
broke
in,
my mood ring.
punch a hole in the insulation and take a bite out of it, you know. That kind
Sure.
of entertainment.
It's delicious.
And the Slicky Boys came down and had a really nice interview with those guys, and just was. I was young and didn't really know how to do this whole music thing, and you know they all had jobs and could only go out on weekends. So 6-hour drive to Chapel Hill was a real tour for them, you know. And
Yeah, us too.
so it's just who else from DC? I guess Insect Surfers maybe were they from up here?
Yep. They were on our label, Wasp Records. Yeah, they toured a lot. We did it a few times when I didn't really like sleeping in a van, back of a
You
van.
didn't like that?
No, it wasn't. One time I had to sleep on top of a bar. I don't think it on top of the bar. I don't think that was Cat's Cradle, but it might have been.
Yeah, the Beatles used to say, I mean, all these stories are coming out. They used to sleep on top of each other to stay warm. You know, stacks of wood, stacks of Beatles in the back.
No.
I like that stuff up to a certain point, you know. I mean, it's when you're in your 20s and your body's made of rubber, it's okay, you know. You don't
Yeah.
instantly get sore. Nowadays, no.
Yeah.
But,
So we've gone from Greece to Carolina. Now, where did you go after that?
I moved to New York in 1986. I was trying to see if I could expand my musical horizons, and as much as I love Chapel Hill, I felt like that wouldn't go as much further than DC or down to Atlanta in terms of, you know, making a living there. And I felt like my songs were good, and maybe I could get some kind of deal. So I eventually I met up with a manager from LA in New York named Michael Solomon. He took my demo tape out to LA. He snuck it onto the desk of the head of MCA Music Publishing, and he called me up and said, "What about a publishing deal?" And I said, "What's that?" Because I was, you know, wanted a record deal. And he said, "Well, it's MCA, and they'll pay you a week, you know, a yearly stipend or advance, and they have a 16-track 2-inch studio that you can use anytime you want out here." And blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Oh, that sounds pretty good." So I landed a deal with MCA and moved to LA and started recording songs for, they signed me as an artist, not just to write songs for other people, but as an artist. And after a year, Columbia Records got interested. And then I had my weirdest A&R meeting ever. And I've had a bunch of weird ones. But
Okay.
David Kahn was a staff producer at Columbia. And they put me up at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel where the Academy Awards originated, and I had a room by the pool, and I'm going like, this is so rock and roll, so LA, you know. David Kahn from Columbia is coming to meet with me, and blah blah blah. And he sits down and he says, "So Columbia Records," and I said, "Columbia Records," and he goes, "Picture a sphere." And I said, "Okay." And on the outside, it's Bruce Springsteen and Barbra Streisand. And I said, "Okay, Bruce and Barbra." And he goes, and on the inside, it's a bottomless black hole. And that's where he stopped talking. That was his pitch for Columbia Records.
And what did you say?
Well,
Ba, ba, ba.
I chewed on this for a minute. Why is David saying it's a black hole? And I said, are you saying, do you think I shouldn't sign with Columbia? He goes, no, I'm not saying that.
But
Okay. And I thought, I've done a demo deal with Island, and I'm not getting any interest from any other labels. I mean, how? And I'm 31 years old, by the way. I'm also like a late bloomer. I said, how much, more can I do this? I said, well, I still want to do it. And he goes, great.
so just so that, so 20 years later, he could say, I warned you.
Well, then, yeah, my record came out, and the first single didn't stick, and it's like, boo, into the black hole, So, but I had a record on Columbia, So, I'm proud of the fact that I got to the major label level with no uncles or cousins who were DJs or power players in the biz. It was all, I didn't even have a live band that was selling out clubs. It was just the songs.
Yeah, you're a great songwriter.
So I figured,
That's why.
well, I got that far. And I, I've been writing songs since I was 10, so it wasn't like it was just to get a major label deal, but I did manage to get that far, and I love writing songs anyway.
Yeah. Well, we would love to hear you play another one for us.
I don't know if you noticed, 2020's been a little bit of a weird year. Anybody notice that?
Nah.
Is it just me?
People are saying 2020 sucks, but I don't see it. It's the greatest year ever.
I spent a lot of time at home for some reason. But this is one I wrote in June, and about our cultural situation in America today, and it's called What's It Gonna Take? What's it gonna take? How many hearts will break before we see the light? Before we see the light, what's it gonna take? How many hearts will break until we see the light? Until we see the light. How can anyone forgive if it's impossible to live? If that's all you've ever done, you shine brighter than the sun. I admit that I am weak, I feel powerless to speak, but I say this with all my love. I wish I had half your strength. What's it gonna take? How many hearts will break before we see the light? Before we see the light, what's it gonna take? How many hearts will break before we see the light? Until we see the light. How can anyone forgive if it's impossible to live? But that's all you've ever done. You shine brighter than my sun. I admit that I am weak, I feel powerless to speak, but I say this with all my love. I wish I had half your strength. What's it gonna take? How many hearts will break before we see the light? Before we see the light, what's it gonna take? How many hearts will break until we see the light? Until we see the light, what's it gonna take?
Woohoo!
I've had that same crowd in my office.
So can I ask about that question?
Yeah.
So that's a lovely song.
Yeah, that's
really.
a beautiful song.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. It's always awkward when we're like, two goofballs and we start to cry. So we're like, we can't.
Don't cry, Diana, whatever you do.
I said, no, we can't. I said, think of something else. So a fellow named Jeff Cooper, I think he's from the UK,
Yeah.
had a question for you about, did you ever formally study art? And he was asking about your T-shirt. Did you design that?
You design it.
Jeff. Yes, I designed that. That is a Sharpie drawing from about 30 years ago. And it's 2 Vox AC30 amps and an Ampeg bass amp and a typical Ringo kind of drum set, Ludwig. That's been my logo for a million years. And did I ever formally study art? That's very funny, Jeff. No. But I do have a Sharpie.
Okay. A magic Sharpie. So one of my questions is that, so you were in North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and punk and new wave is really it, and original songs. And so that's one, and I hear that a lot. I hear that style of guitar and music in many of your songs. But then you're also doing big arena sounding sounding music. How did you go from one to the other, or amalgamate everything?
I think I've always been in the wrong place at the wrong time, actually. My Columbia record came out in like 1988 when hair metal was the thing. And I had these kind of pop, Beatle-y, Bowie sort of sounding things. Wasn't really hitting the button. But Crowded House and was kind of the only other thing maybe at that time that I felt was really kind of Beatle-y melodic. And when new wave came, I was influenced by the the eighth note thing came in. A lot of eighth note songs got written. Like you had to write a few of those, which I did, and everybody got a chorus pedal because of the Police, which is a little bit regretful now. But I always I really tried not to get swayed by the wind of the day. I really was always just hearing stuff in my head, and I had to trust what's in my head. And obviously I'd pick up influences. I was heavily influenced by the British invasion first and then by other contemporary stuff. But I knew when I was, like, if I tried to be a punk rocker, that's not who I am. And I could write a punk rock song, but it wouldn't really be me. I've tried to really keep my antenna tuned into who I am. And, whether or not it's popular, whether or not, I just want to write good songs,
So
hopefully great songs. And
who would you say who are your major influences? Beatles, yes.
Well, Beatles started everything, and then after that there was just this cavalcade of stuff. Everything from Dave Clark 5 to Kinks to Rolling Stones to David Bowie to Cream to Black Sabbath to Led Zeppelin, just all the classic stuff. There's not a lot of obscure bands that that were heavily influenced. I was heavily influenced by. That might not be true. There was a few things. There's a band in Greece, believe it or not, called Socrates, which was amazing.
Oh yeah.
And their opening act was Hemlock.
Yeah, Hemlock. That's right. And then Plato. But
spelled Play-Doh.
Right.
Yeah. But there's some obscure stuff. I like a lot of acts that are kind of like Grantley Buffalo. That's just he sort of is. I don't know how popular any of those guys are. The Grays or XT.
How about the Eels? How did you get involved in that project?
My connection with E, who's the guy who is in Eels, Mark Everett. That came out of the period when I was at MCA Music, signed as a songwriter there. After my Columbia record didn't do much, and they'd been paying me these advances. They said, we really need to make some money from Parthenon, so let's hook him up with other writers. And one of the first ones, this VP at MCA was Betsy Anthony, and she hooked me up with him. And at the time, he was living in a garage apartment in Atwater Village over in LA, making 4-track cassette tapes. But his songwriting was really strong, and he had a deal. He had a manager, a guy named Carter, who had a long career in the music business. And the thing about working with him was that we'd get together, and I'm kind of a parts generator. That's what if I'm in a partnership with a songwriting partnership, I'm good at coming up with stuff because I just do that. And then was a finisher, which was great. Like, he'd say, okay, what was that you were doing? I said, nothing, I was just messing around. He said, well, that's the verse, let's do that, blah, 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 blah. And then we'd finish the whole structure of the song, under his, like, guidance of what he thought was good. And then he'd say, I'm going to go write the words. He'd be back in a half hour with all the lyrics. I mean, like, damn. So he said, okay, done, next. Like, so it was a really fruitful thing. And I'd say, okay, next, let's do... I just started messing around. I said, what's that? And I said, nothing. And so we probably wrote 15, 20 songs together. On his debut album for Polydor, I had the first 2 singles were co-writes. And the cool thing was, rather than doing 4-track cassette demos of our songs, I took him to MCA and we recorded 16-track real studio.
Ooh.
And so the head of Polydor heard that and said, "Oh, that's what Parthenon and sound alike. Sound when they're working together. Well, Parthenon should co-produce the record with E."
Nice.
So then, instead of being the leader of a band, I was a co-producer and a co-writer, and then we went on tour opening for Tori Amos, 30 shows around the country, and I was a sideman playing acoustic guitar. So at the time, you can either look at that as being knocked off the place where you want to be, leading a band, or you can say, I expanded my portfolio.
Exactly.
Well, you've done a little bit of everything. A lot of people like just to be producers, but you like being the leader of the band, right?
I like being the leader of a band. I like being a producer. I like being a co-writer. It's really fun when it works. I like being the side guy. Like I toured Europe and the States with Don Dixon. Dixon's the star in the middle singing his songs. And I'm happy to be his guitar player and vocal harmonizer. I mean, that's a lot of fun. It's not goal number 1, but it's a really great second place, and let him do all the interviews, and he has to be the one who's nervous about singing. I just go up there and play. It's kind of nice to be out of that spot a little bit. But I like to be in the spot just because I have these songs that no one else is going to play these songs, so I got to do it.
Well, we have a bunch of folks watching. I have somebody asking, fella Matthew Johnson. He asks, was The Move a band that you were aware of as a kid in Greece?
Absolutely. Yeah, The Move were huge. And, Lou Reed, Stooges, all that sort of stuff was big. And we first saw The Move. There was at my high school in Greece, there was... some class was doing a poster sale. It's all MC Escher, and Hieronymus Bach, all the groovy posters back in the day. And there was this one band poster. We said, "Who's that?" And it was all these 5 guys in leather jackets looking all cool. We said, "Oh my God, they look amazing. They got to be great." And it was like, "Who is it?" And then in tiny print in the corner it said The Move. We said, "Who's The Move?" So we found their records and just fell in love with The Move. And so it was quite ironic in 1998, like how long is that, 70s to 90s? 20 years later, 25 years later, I got asked to be in ELO Part 2. I auditioned for them. And
Tell us what that was like.
ELO was the band that grew out of The Move, so joining a band like that was insane. So
tell us about auditioning for ELO Part 2. Fun times?
Yeah, it was. Well, I was writing a song with this band called Splendid in my house in LA, and they were an Australian couple, husband and wife songwriting team. And my phone rang, and this guy named Eric Troyer was calling me from New York, and he said, I play in a band called ELO Part 2, and we're looking for a guitar player. And we had a mutual friend, this guy named Jeffrey Foskett, who was in the Beach Boys and was kind of a surf aficionado guy. And I had met Jeffrey just a few months earlier. We played on the same bill and we admired each other and become fast best friends, that kind of thing. And this guy, Eric, who was calling me, said, so we're looking for a guitar player for ELO Part 2, get somebody who can sing and write. And Jeff Foskett said, we should cancel the auditions, that you're the guy. I said, oh, that's nice of Jeff. And he said, are you the guy? And I said, I'm the guy. So I wrote a 4-page letter and sent them all my CDs and stuff. And they said, okay, you sound good. Let's bring you over to Birmingham, England, and we'll audition. We want you to learn Evil Woman, Do Ya, Rock Aria, a couple others. And then I also decided to learn 10538 Overture, which is one of my favorite songs by those guys. And I did the audition. I kind of blew the singing on Evil Woman. I didn't get the phrasing right. It was the last song of the audition, and I was going, oh crap. And the bass player, Kelly Grokett, said, he stopped it. He said, don't worry about it. I sing this one. Just play. Okay.
Oh.
And so I did that, and then that song ended, and it was a little awkward. And I said, "Do you guys do 10538, Overture?" And they said, "I suppose we could do it." Blah, 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 blah. So we did that song, and I was kind of free. I was like, I just sang it like, "Do you see that man walking in the streets today?" And I could see everybody in the room kind of going,
all right.
yeah, this guy sort of wants it, And so I went back to the hotel, and I could hear somebody singing in the room next to me. And I went, and I put my ear up to the door, as you do. And I heard this guy going, do you want my love? He sort of sounded like Cookie Monster.
Who was it?
And it's some guy. And so I felt good about that, and then I got a call from them later and said, well, the band wants to take you out to dinner, and they said, we'd like you to learn 38 songs and come back and rehearse in February, and then we'll go to Uruguay. We'll see you in Uruguay. That's different.
Wow, that's a cool
that's
story.
A nice life.
That's fun. That's fun.
Well, play something else for us.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the great things about being in a band with guys from ELO is that you're in a band with guys from ELO. And the violinist Mick Kaminsky, the string arranger Lou Clark, bass player Kelly Grokett. And so when we made our first record together, I knew I was going to have all these string parts, and it was really, really fun to write. So this is the first song I wrote for the band, called Jewel and Johnny. To school each day, holding hands and no one bats an eye. All their friends are pretty cool that way, but no one knows why both their mothers cry. Two kids in love, that's all it ought to be. Still their parents grumble, this is how our culture start to crumble. Johnny nearly threw a punch today. Some jerk on the metro said a word. Jules said, I don't care what people say. It's not like that's the worst we've ever heard. Two kids in love, that's all it ought to be. Still their parents grumble, this is how our cultures crumble. Love conquers all accepting families. All this bloodline squawking sounds exactly like the old world talking. All through the years, we did it for our kids, gave them blood and sweat and tears. Don't tell us this, you're in love after one kiss, and your family disappears. This isn't fair, we just want you to be happy. walls crumble. Love conquers all except in families. All this bloodline squawking sounds exactly like the old world talking. Brave new boy and brave new girl. Brave new boy and brave new girl. Brave new boy and brave new girl. Two kids in love, that's all it ought to be. Two kids in love, that's all it ought to be.
Yeah.
Woo! Woo!
Thank you, crowd.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound great?
Yeah, it does. Big
Miss
crowd.
it. Big crowds. Miss it. So you're not playing to those big crowds anymore. I guess all the band dates have been canceled for a while.
Yep.
So what have you been doing? We know what you've been doing, but what have you been doing?
Well, as soon as that became clear that no one's going to play live for a while, a lot of people started doing these live streaming shows in their sad-sounding living room or sad-sounding dining room. And it's just like, at first, I think it took a while for everybody to get the hang of how to make it sound good. And we've done our research, and you've done your research, and I've got a special mic and all that stuff now. But I didn't want to just do a show in my dining room, just because I like a little bit of mystique or a little bit of glamour. And like, remember when all the celebrities played out in their driveway and Sheryl Crow was in it? It was like, it didn't sound very good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a tricky thing. Like, oh no.
It is a tricky thing.
Okay, Jesus.
It's
Okay.
I know, it happens all
We'll
the
listen
time.
in. That's okay. Go ahead.
I hope that was the insurance for my car that I don't need.
Your student loan is due.
So I just anyway, I just wanted to bring a little bit of production value for what it's worth. I mean, I'm not kidding myself, but I decided to do instead like a little variety show, and I called it the Pandemic House Guy Show after Parthenon, Huxley, Pandemic House Guy, whatever, and put up a curtain in my office and created a few characters to joke around with, and it was really rough at first. It's all on my phone. It's all on iMovie on my phone. I didn't know how it worked, but I just kept just see what it could do.
You had the time.
It's good.
Yeah, well, that's the silver linings. I mean, we're kind of past that now. The silver linings are looking a little tarnished these days, but the truth is, I was home and I had time, and I could come down here. There was no pressing running around. I wasn't running errands. I wasn't even buying groceries. We'd order and have them when this thing first came down. So I found that I could actually focus on something for 8 or 10 hours, and that's what you need to do to make any of these videos. 10 takes, of one little simple thing, because it's really hard to speak to the camera. Especially when you're alone. It's like, and now here's a bong from here's a song from, and now here, it's weird. It's weird singing, talking to the green light. It's easy with you guys here. But
So folks can go to YouTube and find you at Parthenon Huxley.
yeah,
Go to his website.
you can go to my website,
ParthenonHuxley.com.
parthenonhuxley.com, or go to YouTube and just put in Pandemic House Guy Show. And they're pretty fun, and I play songs and do skits, and it's a lot of fun.
We have to admit that we did a parody of the show yesterday and posted it on the page. So
I was Bug-Eye Bob.
You were Bug-Eye Bob? Nice. All right.
I was Willie Ray.
I can't wait to see this.
Yeah, I bet you can't.
But I was afraid that if you saw it, you wouldn't come up on. You wouldn't be on the show.
An empty
I
chair.
cannot wait to see this.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
So
Oh, I have a funny Tori Amos song because she grew up in Rockville, Maryland, and my aunt went to her family's church. And before she became anything, my aunt said that she used to come on Sundays and play. and the reason was that she was sort of a disturbed child, and they thought it would be good therapy for her to play her so sad songs in front of the church. But that's how people started hearing her.
Yeah, she's super interesting character and amazing piano player.
Yep.
Very interesting writer. And yeah, when we were doing shows with her, I mean, you could hear a pin drop. I mean, her fans were so intense.
Yeah.
You know, like they hung on every word like it was gospel. I mean,
Yeah.
that was a fascinating experience.
Yeah.
And my show with E was this little dog and pony show, you know, we do all these sad songs of E's, and then in between we'd be Johnny and Ed trying to be funny. And it worked, you know, it worked, but it was a kind of an interesting bill. But yeah, she's an interesting character, for sure.
Well, can you play another song for us?
Sure. Let me see. What should I play?
Well, there was a request,
Yeah.
but I know that I think it's a full band, the California.
Oh, I can do California.
Oh, yeah?
That's a Robbie White request. Robbie's the one
White.
who told me all about you, and I listened to his first interview with you in January, back when you had dates to promote. And I'm so excited to have I've discovered you. You don't need discovering, but it's really, your music is great, and the Pandemic House Guy.
Yeah, we're having
show
so
is
much
really
fun
great.
watching those.
Yeah.
Oh, I need discovering. Trust me.
Well, everybody who's listening, and it's going to be archived, and more people watch the archive than watch live. You all go and buy all of P. Hux's albums and watch his show. When is the next one coming out? You've had 6?
I'll have to talk to the production team about it.
Okay.
See what Bug-Eye Bob says.
Yeah, see if Willie Ray's available.
Willie Ray's definitely available.
Willie Ray!
Well, he's right next door, which is very handy. But so this song is called California, and it's pretty much literally through there's one line, James Earl Jones, he loved my name. That came from when I was living out there. The rule basically in LA is don't bother the stars. They have to live somewhere, you know, leave them alone. But it's James Earl Jones. We're in a movie lobby. There was an early screening of some picture at the Directors Guild or something like that. And he was in the lobby, and I thought, oh my God, it's James Earl Jones. So I went, Mr. Jones, my name's Parthenon Huxley, and I'm a big fan. And he goes, Parthenon Huxley, that's a great name. I called everybody back in North Carolina. Darth Vader loves my name. So this is called California. California, here I come. Guy from Venice heard my tape back east. Flew out to the land of good vibrations. Woke up in the belly of the beast. I've got songs and some ambition. Maybe we can make a deal. Money, sun, and television. Maybe this place is unreal. California. Fame and fortune, I'm so green. How can I explain Angeline? Fame and fortune in your face. I guess even cartoons have to live someplace. I shook hands with Brian Wilson, James Earl Jones, he loved my name. Played some pool with Edge from U2, but the best was Robin Lane. California, California, California. There they are.
So in the record of California, there's you insert a TV theme song, right? Is it from a TV show? Not Route 66. It's something. It's one of my earworms.
That thing, the solo.
Where does it go?
That thing.
Is a little figure. I'll find it. I'll ask you about it. But it's been driving me crazy.
I don't think we did anything like that on purpose, but maybe it's in there.
So did you meet Brian Wilson?
Yeah, a couple times.
Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Actually sang on one of his tracks. It hasn't come out yet, I don't think, but that was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah, he was, when I first met him, he was in that phase where, what was his therapist's name?
Oh, I can't remember.
You know who we're talking about,
yeah.
right?
The one who took over his life.
Yeah, he had Brian doing, like going up to strangers and shaking hands to learn how to be social. And so I was at this rehearsal for some show where there was going to be a million different people playing, and my group was going in and his group was coming out. And he said, "Hi, I'm Brian." I went, "Yeah, I know. I'm Parthenon. Nice to meet you, Brian." And he says, "Yeah, nice to meet you too." And then I read a book like a few years later, and it was Eugene Landy.
Oh, right.
And he was having him go through these exercises.
Yeah. Wow.
Now, the weird, I heard that while he was in this phase, he introduced himself to his daughter.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah.
I heard that happened at like the sports arena or something like that. "Hi, I'm Brian," and she said, "I know, Dad."
I know, Daddy.
Yeah.
So he was, he's there, but I'm not sure what it's like to be him. Put it that way.
Hey, so you were talking about a book. So you're really a voracious reader.
Yes.
Yeah. We've seen in your Pandemic House Guy your little book reviews. Those are awesome. But it looks like you have dozens of books. I'm sure you have even more outside where the camera can see.
Yeah, I like reading about musicians, and also at my age, what else are you going to get me for Christmas? Do you know what I mean?
Wow. Another guitar, of course.
No, we're done with guitars, so now it's rock books, and my wife is really good at finding stuff for me. So yeah, Tom Jones, his biography is one of my all-time favorites. It's just fabulous. He's really funny, and I do believe he wrote it. I'm sure he had an editor, but it's really funny, and it starts at the nadir of his career when he's doing these sort of supper clubs in Massachusetts and stuff, and it's like, it wasn't always like this, and his story is amazing. Wow. The guy Richard Lloyd from the band Television, his book is crazy. Like his life is sort of like a Zelig thing, like tuning Hendrix's guitar in Central Park, and I mean, just he's done a lot of weird, crazy stuff, and kind of believes in magic and stuff. And his book is really wild. The downside of the rock bios is a lot of them are junkie stories. There's a lot of drug stories.
And then came the drugs.
Huh?
And then came the drugs.
And then came the drugs, and then chapter 2, and then more drugs, and then more drugs. It's like, okay, I know you had to cop. We get it. But whereas there's a book, one of my favorites is Duff McKagan. It's So Easy and Other Lies. His book is great because there's drugs in it and alcoholism, but it's more about getting past that and who he became once he realized he had a second chance to live. He's really gone for it. Interesting guy. I got a chance to meet with him and hang out. Actually perform with him down in South Carolina. We did a little benefit show together because I know his older brother. But anyway, yeah, there's lots of great books out there. Lots of good stuff. So, yeah.
Well, we're getting near the end, and I have a request, but I don't want to...
Maybe we can go over a few minutes.
Yeah. Can you do simple things?
Sure. Now, as you know, or maybe you don't know, but in Simple Things, it's one of the songs, I have this horrible habit of writing the word wife in my lyrics, and it's not cool, it's not rock and roll, but in the second verse, it goes, "I know our love is big as life, it means a lot to call you wife." And right there at wife, I need a big fist in the air, Motley Crue wife shout. So you can unmute just for the word wife. You know what I'm saying? I know our love is big as life. It means a lot to call you wife.
Wife!
And since we had this satellite delay, it'll be even weirder than usual. So perfect. All right. Okay. Not that I need my lyrics, but I'm just going to put my lyrics up here. I don't need them.
I wish I had a lighter.
By the way, do people know that you're in Maine by a lake and you're freezing and that's why you have many layers on and stuff like that?
They're kind of cold. But Elise is going home to warm Ithaca, New York tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that'll be balmy.
But we do all of our shows in our pajamas, though.
I like it. All right, this is Simple Things. It's 2 a.m., my love's asleep. Somehow now it hits me deep. To watch her live, to know she lives, is more than gold or silver gives. I scratch her back, the neck I kiss. My happiness is stuff like this. We live large and both been burned, and by now I guess we learn. Yeah, simple things are everything. Whoa, simple things are everything. Yeah, simple things are everything. I know our love is big as life. It means a lot to call you wife.
Wife!
But bigger still is when you smile. It makes my heart jump up a mile. I guess we'd like to have it all. And rivers rise and comets fall. As long as I can make you laugh, that's the life I'd rather have. Yeah, simple things are everything. Whoa, simple things are everything. Yeah, simple things are everything. Whoa, simple things are It's 3 a.m. and I'm asleep. I just put down my favorite read, and dreams of her flow through my head for 5 more hours in my bed. Yeah, simple things are everything. Whoa, simple things are everything. Yeah, simple things to be a sing. Oh, simple things are everything. Yeah, simple things are everything.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
Wife!
wife.
Wife.
Woo! Rock and roll.
Which do you write music first or lyrics first, or they come to you all over the place?
Kind of all over the place. It's usually kind of a package deal once I get an inspiration or I start hearing something in my head. Um, yeah, there's usually a melody and some little piece of music. So it's I start to the mood of the music sort of pushes me toward what it might be about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of comes down in chunks. And there have been times when I've just written lyrics. It's pretty rare, but if I hear a line or something like that, and I feel like, that's good. I need to. I'll try to finish it and keep going as far as I can. But it's normally together.
So, can you tell us a little bit about your gear? What kind of guitars do you prefer, and do you like custom amps or Marshall amps?
uh, I'm not a gearhead. I have sort of an emotional response to instruments. Like if I play it and it sounds great, I'm in. I have learned. I mean, doing it for a while, I have learned what to look for. But this guitar is a Gibson Gospel acoustic. When I met my wife Helly, she had one, and I was like, so I have one of my own. I bought another one for myself, and I used to have a bunch of weird guitars, and now it's more like my collection's kind of gotten normal. Like I have a couple of Les Pauls, and I have a Stratocaster, and I have some Gretsch guitars, and a 1956 Country Gentleman is my oldest, I think, and
Lovely.
I have a new Gretsch that's made in China that's perfectly great, and it's only $400. It's like sometimes cheap guitars are accidentally great. I used to play through AC30s, which was the Beatles and Queen and Tom Petty's amp, but they're too heavy and they're really loud. So now I have a couple of small amps, a Blues Junior and a Swart Atomic Space Tone, just small tube amps.
Oh wow! And
That's about all I know.
when you play with the ELO Part 2 or orchestra, what do you have any special pedals that you use to get that sound?
I have a Boss ME50, and it's a multi-effects processor. It's only about this big, and it has distortion, wiggle, and delays on it. So that's all I need. I don't like to pedal jump when I'm performing. I'd rather just get a good, useful guitar tone and stick with that for the most part. Mm-hmm. Have a boost. If I need to take a solo, I'll just hit a little, something that makes it louder, and that's pretty much it. I think. Most guitar players sound like themselves no matter what they're playing through. I mean, you can get my friend Rusty Anderson, who's been in Paul McCartney's band for the last 20 years. If you give Rusty a banjo, it would still sound like Rusty. I mean, somehow he'll, it's in the fingers a lot. So
yeah. Well, can you play another song for us? I know we've gone over our time.
Sure.
But...
let me see here. What would we do? Yeah, let's do another newish one. Let's do Running Home to You.
Nice.
Great.
It's about my wife Helly, and I was on a plane when I heard it. Sometimes I find songwriting is often generated by movement, either walking or running or being in a car alone or in a plane alone, and there's some sort of groove sets up. And this one was in a plane, and the first line is flying through the sky. So here we go. To the sky, life is racing by, speed of light. Alright, gotta slow it down, reach you on the ground. You're my life. Alright, and now I'm running home. I'm running home to you, baby. I'm running home. Kicking down my street, feels so bittersweet. It's not my time, no, it's not mine. Just you and me, all our history. That's my life, alright. And now I'm running home. I'm running home to you, baby. I'm running home. I'm running home to you. I'm running home to you. To you. I'm running home. I'm running home. I'm running home. I'm running home to you, babe. I'm running home to you. I'm running home to you, babe. I'm running home to you.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Oh, that was
that's
awesome.
great.
Thank you so much.
What a great song.
Can you just tell me about Bethesda? Thank you, Bethesda. I have a song that's an old song my punk band did called Bethesda, Bethesda. But yours is Thank You, Bethesda.
Yeah.
And where did that come from? And didn't you do some of that in Ray Wiley's garage, the video?
Ray Wiley? Willie Ray, I think.
Willie Ray. I'm thinking Ray Wiley Hubbard, and I know you've done stuff in his
Don
garage.
Dixon
So.
made the same mistake. Uh, Thank You, Bethesda was written 20 years before I ever set foot in Bethesda. And let me see. How much of this can I really tell? So it was first or second year in college down at UNC, Chapel Hill, and it was Thanksgiving vacation. And the town empties during Thanksgiving. And but I was there. And this friend called up and said, I have something that a friend of mine got at Bethesda Naval Hospital, and would you like to try some with me? And I said, okay, sure. And we did, and we had a very interesting day together. And so years later, I wrote Thank You, Bethesda, and it's about that experience with my friend. And so there you go.
Does that explain the video a little bit? Because,
I think so.
okay, very good.
Yeah. And then when I moved here, it's like weird.
Yeah, yeah.
But you know, this is a great place. Hallie and I moved here to raise our kids and have them be around their cousins and friends.
And how old are your kids, and what are their names?
12 and 18. 12 and yeah, she's not at 19 yet. Fiona and Imogen.
Hi, Fiona and Imogen, if you ever see this.
I'm not watching Dad's video.
Can you do one more song, and then we'll let you go? We know you. Before we do it, it's I love everything about you. I loved everything about you. Can you tell everyone about the paintings behind you? Because I bought some. I bought some yesterday. I did, and I talked to him actually online.
Did you
Yeah,
really?
he wrote me back.
No kidding. Did you write him a long letter or something, or what?
I know. I just wrote him a note. I said that I told him about your background, and it was going to be on our show today. So.
Oh, cool. I hope he's watching. God, that'd
I
be
do
cool.
too.
This painter is Steve Keen. He's based in Brooklyn. I don't know much about him other than I know that they're all about this big, you know, about 2 foot by 1 foot, and on cheap pieces of wood, just thin plywood. And he paints super fast, and he sells them. He's been selling them for the last 30 years for like $5 a piece. And so his claim on his website is like 340,000 pieces of art sold or given away. You know,
Right. I like the or giving away part.
yeah, they're really expressive. I discovered him when a friend of mine bought one in New York. I was in LA, and he stuck a mailing label on it, sent it to me, didn't wrap it up or anything, and it just came like that. And And he said, "Why am I going to wrap it? It cost me $5. You know, it's like whatever." And it's this great painting of a lighthouse that he did, a really beautiful painting, and like this kind of expressive and
Almost a little Van Gogh behind you, almost like the church in Auvers-sur-Oise, that painting.
he's just. I mean, the guy's great. The guy's
Yeah.
great, and I love.
Squirrels. Squirrels.
I just love his style, and you know, you can send him $70 and he'll send you a whole boatload of paintings. You never know what you're going to get, and it's really fun. So I'm a big fan, and I've seen a friend of mine who played in a band called Giant Sand out in Arizona had a huge wall hanging by Steve Keen, and like to get one of those someday.
Wow.
So yeah, they're all over my house. I just love them. So this next song is "I Love Everything," and it has to do with my late wife Janet Heaney, who was a screenwriter and a fabulous person who passed away in 1997. And this was on an album called Purgatory Falls, which is named after her family farm. And this was #1 on Rolling Stone magazine's digital exclusive download chart, which I don't know what that means, but it was #1. So there you go. It's called "I Loved Everything." I loved everything about you. I knew all the things I never loved about you. I loved everything about you. I loved the thing I loved about you. I even loved the stuff I never loved about you, baby. I loved everything about you. Cars are wrecked and the yard's a mess. There's a thread hanging off of your favorite dress. Baby, baby, I love that dress. Washing dogs, killing fleas. Not gonna ask how you scrape both knees. Baby, baby, you've been on your knees. I know work's like, girl, I've been there too. I loved everything about you. I even loved the things I never loved about you. I loved everything about you. I loved the thing I loved about you. I even loved the stuff I never loved about you, baby. I loved everything about you. There's no space between us. There's no space between us. There's no space between us. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Baby, baby, you were made of steel. It makes this trip a little more unreal. Baby, I loved you, I loved you so much. I loved the thing I loved about you. I even loved the things I never loved about you. I loved everything about you. I loved everything about you. I even loved the things I never loved about you, baby. Even loved the stuff I never loved about you, baby. You know I did. I said
That's one of my favorite songs. It so perfectly epitomizes love and the string hanging off the dress. I mean, you do such a great job with telling stories and showing us pictures and making us cry.
Aw, thanks.
And great hooks.
Yeah, great hooks. You could land a marlin with those hooks.
Oh, thanks, Rolling Stone.
Well, you know what? Can you come back another time? We've loved making you our new best friend.
Sure.
And we love discovering you, and we're your newest, biggest fans. And we hope everyone goes to your website. And you have a PayPal account too?
Yep, it's linked up to our to
Page.
this show.
Oh, it is? Oh, that's nice.
PayPal.me. Pandemic House Guy, right?
They're also on the Pandemic House Guy videos, the link to PayPal, and that's all voluntary. You know, it's just like, yeah, it does take me time to do these things, but you know, whatever you can do is great. And I'll tell you, the secret about you guys is that you are not snarky.
Oh, definitely one of us is.
Perfect. Well, you hide it well.
And everybody who's listening and watching at home, live and in archives, John Carroll is going to be our guest next week.
Oh, cool. Hey, John.
And yeah, John is a good friend and a talented guy, and so watch us next week.
Amazing.
Parthenon, thank you so much. P. Hux, thank you so
It's
much.
so much fun learning about you and your art and your books and your music. You're kind of a well-rounded Renaissance kind of guy. It's really cool.
Thank you so much. It's
Awesome.
We're learning Sputnik as a cover.
There you go. Punk rock.
All right, thanks
Hope to
everybody.
See you live sometime within the year, if
That'd be nice.
possible. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
take care and thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yep,
guys.
thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace out, everyone.